Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to The Correct Views. Unfortunately, the video camera, the HDF, is being used for other purposes. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and just go with the live video. Don't need any comments from the peanut gallery. Guys, we've got tons of news here from this missing plane. And I'm going to try to cover it in ways that you don't normally get, because you know what? I do believe in the supernatural. That is not to say that I believe that this is supernatural. I'm just saying that this is the second plane in a row within one freaking year. I guess not a row, but in one freaking year that has vanished. And don't give me this BS that it somehow went to the bottom of the ocean without an oil slick, because I'll tell you it's BS. Why? First of all, because if I said it, it's right. Second of all, because this is happening with greater and greater frequency. And they try this in the Bermuda Triangle all the time. For instance, there has been boats that have vanished in the Bermuda Triangle. They have found the boat later, after it disappeared from radar or GPS or whatever term you want to use for it, with nobody on board except the parrots and the dogs. Yeah, it's possible that it was a suicide of everybody on board, but where did the bodies go? Well, the sharks ate the bodies. Well, in some of those instances, the sharks didn't have time to eat the freaking bodies. So there have been planes that have been landing on airstrips and have vanished in clear sight of people watching it. How many of you listening to this have sat something down, gone to the other room, and gone into the room and found out that it's not there anymore? You guys know that you have. Those of you with the thinking part of your brain know that it happens every single day. And people try to explain it away. Am I saying it happened here? No. Am I pretending to know what it is that causes these sorts of things to happen? No. I have no idea. People have condescendingly told me it's ghosts or it's monsters. Well, that's their words. That is not mine. Doesn't pay to be condescending, because I'm just going to prove you wrong. Paul Joseph Watson wrote this, and I liked it. AirAsia CEO Tony Fernandez dumped 944,800 shares in Tune Insurance Holdings, BHD. The organization that provides travel insurance for AirAsia passengers just days before the disappearance of flight QZ8501, which in the future I will be referring to only as QZ. Let me ask you something, people. You don't believe in conspiracies. You don't believe that you can set this butter knife down right here, go to the other room, get up, and it's gone. You don't believe that? Well, that's fine. You're wrong, but you cannot believe it anyway. Let me ask you this. Doesn't it seem a little unusual that some rich dude would sell 944,000 plus shares of the stock right before the people of which that stock is insured happens to lose a plane? Doesn't it seem a little odd to you? On December 26th, the Malaysian Insider reported that Fernandez, the founder of Toon Group SDN BHD, which owns AirAsia, has sold a total of, again, 944,800 shares in Tune Insurance Holdings, with 850,000, shares being dumped on December 22nd, and the other 94,800 being sold the day after. A lot of you are going to say, well, people trade stocks every day. They don't trade $944,000 worth. According to its official website, Tune Insurance Holdings BHD is, quote, an insurance product manager, end quote, for AirAsia, in which insurance products are sold to AirAsia customers as part of their online booking process. That means every time you go up, somebody is betting that you're not going to come down. It's perfectly legal. There's nothing you can do about it. The share prices of AirAsia and Tune Insurance Holdings both fell on the first day of trading after the disappearance of Flight QZ, with the former shedding 12.9% at one point. Tune Insurance Holdings lost 0.06%. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm sure it's a fortune. Fernandez's decision to dump the shares less than a week before AirAsia Flight QZ disappeared over the Java Sea prompted some to speculate that he may have had prior knowledge to the incident. It's interesting because you find this kind of thing cropping up in 9/11 as well. And during 9/11, a lot of people were selling off shares that had to do with the World Trade Center prior to its destruction. Did Fernandez know that his company stock was about to take a hit? The timing is suspicious, asks Heavy.com, adding, if so, it indicates knowledge of an impending attack on AirAsia. The International Business Times adds that the move has prompted many to voice the theory that Fernandez possibly knew that an impending attack on the company's aircraft was impending. Again, may have known, but I mention this because it says here, the story bears some similarity, and there's a link to this, the unusual activity in airline stocks that preceded the September 11th, 2001 attacks. An extraordinary amount of put options, for those of you that don't know, that is speculation that a stock will fall, were placed on the United and American Airlines in the days leading up to 9/11. So this has been done prior, my friends. Two more stories on this. Did mysterious Chinese blogger predict disappearance of AirAsia flight? This is also by PJ Dub, and this is where we get into the what if of supernatural. Now, the first bonehead that goes online and says that Sam said that it was supernatural is going to be called a bonehead when I reply. Is it a supernatural act? I don't know. Do I believe that there have been supernatural acts, particularly with airplanes and boats, even more concisely in the triangle? Yes, this isn't the triangle, but I'm just saying, yes, I do believe in it. I'm not saying that I believe that this is one such instance. But let's face it, friends, it came up and it seemed prudent enough for me to bring it up. A mysterious user of the Chinese social media network Weibo, which is like Twitter, apparently predicted the disappearance on AirAsia flight QZ almost 2 weeks before the plane went missing, urgently warning Chinese nationals not to use the airliner in dozens of posts. Again, when I say Weibo, think Twitter. This is some scary and very accurate prediction. Either this guy was an insider or he was a psychic. There is no third option, so don't try. The report, carried by Epoch Times, relates the story of how the individual, quote, repeatedly warned people away from Malaysia Airlines and AirAsia, end quote. Do not become another victim of MH370, which is the other flight that disappeared. Warned the individual on December 15th. There was a posting. He added that AirAsia was about to be targeted by powerful forces, which he referred to as the Black Hand. If that's the case, then it would imply that he had insider knowledge and that it isn't supernatural. Again, this is not a story about ghosts. This is a possibility story. This is not me saying that it was supernatural. This is a life-saving message to Europe or the U.S. tour. Do not take AirAsia or Malaysia Airlines airliner, states the translated version of one of the posts. The user went on to assert that the Black Hand was out to ruin AirAsia, Malaysia's second largest air company. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 went missing in March earlier this year. We've reported on it extensively here at this channel. While MH17 was shot down over the Ukraine in July. There's no mysteriousness there. However, we don't know if it was a NATO plane that did it on accident or if it was in fact Putin. Originally, I thought it was Putin, and I have openly said that now I wish to recant that, which I don't do very often. But I have since believed that it was not Putin that did it. Does that mean I like Putin? No. The individual repeated his warning in subsequent posts said made on the 16th and 17th of December, writing, quote, this is a major event in human life. We have to pay attention. Adding, far from AirAsia, Malaysia Airlines away, cherish life. Speculation on the Reddit forum by Chinese users suggests that the posts may have originally been on the 15th and then later edited with the prediction about AirAsia added about the disappearance of flight QZ. Well, BS, unless Weibo is drastically different than Twitter, it lets you know when you make an edit. So we can pretty much rule that one out, unless, of course, it works differently on Weibo. The user made a total of 39 posts. No, I haven't used Weibo. I don't speak Chinese. I barely speak English. The user made a total of 39 posts on the subject, which were viewed by an amazing 650,000 people. I hope the user forwards this show. Good Lord. After Flight QZ disappeared, users returned to the threads to express amazement at the individual's prediction, speculating that he was an insider of some kind of connected to the Malaysian or Chinese government. He may have been. Investigators are still hunting for the wreckage of the AirAsia flight, which had 162 passengers on board when it disappeared during a flight from Surabaya to Singapore, with the head of Indonesia's search and rescue team asserting that the plane is likely to be at the bottom of the sea. See, friends, I have a problem with that because while not an expert, and I know we've seen an oil slick, we'll get to it in a minute, but that one seems a bit far away. Planes do not crash into the bottom of the sea without leaving an oil slick. To believe that that happens is almost as illogical as believing that the tooth fairy is coming tonight when you haven't shed any teeth, no less. Because let's pretend that this is water. And here comes your trusty plane. Now, it's going to crash at hundreds of miles into this water, not break apart, not leave an oil slick, but just gingerly go to the bottom of the ocean. Utter BS, friends. Now, the reason I mention this is because there was an oil slick spotted, but for those of you that know how to use Google Earth, it seems a bit far away, which would imply that they're just trying to fake it. Is that the case? I don't know. I wasn't there. We don't do half facts on the correct views, but we do put speculation out there, which is what I'm doing now. Reuters put this out. Indonesia says missing AirAsia plane could be at the bottom of the sea with the tooth fairy. A missing AirAsia jet carrying 162 people could be at the bottom of the sea after it was presumed to have crashed off the Indonesian coast, an official said on Monday, as countries around Asia sent ships and planes to help in the search. The Indonesia AirAsia plane, an Airbus A320-200, disappeared after its pilot failed to get permission to fly higher to avoid bad weather during a flight from the Indonesian city of Surabaya to Singapore on Sunday. Let me pause. I've got some feedback on the InfoWars comment line that I frequent, saying that they always claim that it's due to bad weather. Well, I mean, always is sort of an applicable word here, because when you're flying great distances, you often come across storms. Sometimes you can go under them, sometimes you have to go around them. So that doesn't seem as fishy to me as it did this person. It says Flight QZ did not issue a distress signal and disappeared over the Java Sea 5 minutes after requesting the change of course, which was refused because of heavy air traffic. So there is the option that this guy the pilot asked to be moved, and they said you couldn't because there was too much traffic. So he tried to tough it and crashed. May have happened. But no distress signal? That's almost as odd as no oil slick. Also, there was no distress signal the last time that this happened. I don't mean the Ukrainian shoot down, I mean the other one. It says, based on our coordinates, we expect that it's in the sea. So for now, we think it is at the bottom of the sea floor. Solistio, head of Indonesia's search and rescue agency, told reporters when asked about the missing plane's likely location. Of course, none of the reporters had the wherewithal to ask about the oil slick because they were kissing Indonesian ass. A senior Indonesian civil aviation source told Reuters that authorities had the flight's radar data and were waiting for search and rescue teams to find debris before they started their investigation into the cause. Transport Minister Ignatius Jonan, it goes on, said that the search was focused on an area of 70 square nautical miles between the island of Betleung, it's off of Sumatra, and Borneo Island. He said that the sea was only 50 to 100 meters deep, which would be a help in finding the plane. Ships could hunt around the clock, but aircraft were expected to suspend operations at dusk. Air Force spokesman Haji Tahayanto, I don't know, said researchers were checking a report of an oil slick off of Biatang. So it is on the further side of this search. It does still make it, but it does make you wonder if they extended the search just to accommodate the oil slick. Again, if it went down, I hope this is the oil slick. I hope the family gets closure. I'm not like some psycho hoping for the worst here. It said they had picked up an emergency locator signal off the south of Borino, but no subsequent signal was found. That is very odd, because for those of you that don't know, there is the flight data recorder and the black box, and those are two separate boxes, which are almost always found, even in the worst accidents in the deepest of oceans. It said on board flight QZ were 155 Indonesians, 3 South Koreans, and 1 person each from Singapore, Malaysia, and Britain. The co-pilot was French. The disappearance caps a disastrous year for Malaysia-affiliated airlines, and that's where some of the possible conspiracy comes in here, because let's face it, it's not that big of an area to be facing all of this. Or I should say that big of an airline. It is that big of an area. Indonesia AirAsia is 49% owned by Malaysia-based budget carrier AirAsia. Again, always the budget airlines. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 went missing on March 8th, and a trip to Kuala Lumpur to Beijing with 239 passengers and crew has not yet been found. Guys, we're almost at a year to that one. On July 17th, the same airline's flight MH17 was shot down over Ukraine, killing 298 people on board. The AirAsia group, including affiliates in Thailand, whose capital is Bangkok, the Philippines, and India, had not suffered a crash since its Malaysian budget operations began in 2002. And it says that the anger is growing because the family members are getting a bunch of half-truths. Basically, CYA reports from... that would be cover your ass. Reports from the airline, who's doing everything they can to not say too much, which of course we all know includes saying a lot of things that they know, which could be very helpful to everyone. Guys, this is from thefreebeacon.com. We're going to move on from this missing plane. Again, leave comments. I'd love to hear your input on it. But this is from freedombeacon.com. China tests ICBM with multiple warheads. I put this in here because this is yet more trouble going on in Asia, particularly among China, who with the U.S. and Russia are the biggest nuclear and economical financial powerhouses in the world. So I thought that it should be mentioned. It's by Bill Gertz. China carried out a long-range missile flight test on Saturday, using multiple independently targetable reentry vehicles, or MIRVs, according to the U.S. defense officials. You might be wondering why I'm reporting on this. Because it was long thought that China could not possibly harm or nuke or otherwise destroy the USA because they needed too much of our businesses. Well, we know from history that many people, such as Ford, funded both the Nazi Hitler Mussolini side of the war as well as the U.S. side in Britain. The reason they did that was because if either side won, they would in fact still have a company. Well, I don't know if you've done the math lately, but I have. And China owns enough of our businesses to be able to continue using those businesses if they sold out to them and not have a United States. They could actually risk losing or at least getting engaged in a nuclear war with us, because China has too many people anyway, and they really don't give a rat's bottom whether or not a few million happen to die. They're trying to thin the population anyway over there, or they wouldn't have the one-child policy. So you can see where this is going and why this matters. They're really not afraid to really get into it with us, because if we kill a few million, we'll be doing them a favor. In their eyes, of course. The flight test Saturday of the new DF-41 missile, China's longest-range intercontinental ballistic missile, marks the first test of multiple warhead compatibilities for China, officials told the Washington Free Beacon. China has been known to be developing multiple warhead technology, which it obtained from the United States in the 1990s. Pause. Sam, why do you hate Bill Clinton so much? Do you hate him because Monica Lewinsky went down on all fours and gave him the ho-ho-ha-ha on the floor of the Oval Office? No, I could care less. As a matter of fact, I would hope that Bill Clinton, being where he was, had even hotter women than her. I mean, I would hope supermodels. I have no problem with it. I'm not a purist. It's between him, God, and Hillary. And if you're married to Hillary, I could see why you would do anything. You'd put your schlong in an electric pencil sharpener before you picked her. I get it. I don't hate him for that. What I hate him for is that there were nuclear secrets that were willfully, knowingly being stolen. And Clinton let it happen during his watch and didn't prosecute anybody that was involved with it. And you want to know why the show is called The Correct Views? Because in the 90s, when it happened, I told everybody that would listen, one of these days, the United States is going to be looking at the possibility of a mushroom cloud forming over top of us here at 420 because of what he did. And you know what? That's exactly what happened in 2014. So I was right before I even named the show that. I knew this would happen, and here it is, exactly as I predicted it. No surprise there. However, the December 13th DF-41 flight test using an unknown number of inert maneuvering warheads, that would be with being bombed with our own technology is what that would be, is being viewed by U.S. intelligence agencies as a significant advance for China's strategic nuclear forces and part of the buildup that is likely to affect the strategic balance of forces. That is why I would rather put live hot staples in my forehead than vote for Hillary. Do you understand what we're talking about and the fact that this is Clinton's fault? China's nuclear arsenal, which they got from us, they were not a nuclear nation to any degree prior, is estimated to include around 240 very large range warheads. All 450 Minuteman III missiles have been modified to no longer carry MIRVs. However, Trident II submarine launch missiles can carry up to 14 MIRVs per missile. And if you think that it's all poppycock, you can go right ahead and think so. But the facts are this. There was a major trade show, and China used a picture of the globe. And above the United States was a nuclear explosion, a mushroom. And they were claiming that it was an accident, that it was stock footage they used. Isn't it kind of interesting that they have no proofreaders in the world's second largest economy? Them and Russia are interchangeable. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you get the point. Doesn't that seem a little bit unusual? Because it does to me. Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views, and I would appreciate very much if you didn't zone out, because I got 3 more stories left. I'm giving you 2 dumdies today, not just one, and they're so stupid you're going to want to hear both of them. I just want to remind you that if you get a chance, check out the Arcadia Grill. They are located in Canton, Ohio. They're on Court Avenue. And when you go there, you're going to be eating delicious food. You're going to be having drinks made absolutely perfect every time you order. Whatever you're drinking, flawless every time. So when you go there, make sure you let Maria know, or whoever your server is, that you heard about it from The Correct Views. Court Avenue, downtown Canton. If you're anywhere near Ohio, make the drive. You won't be sorry that you did. Friends, next story that I'm getting to, brought to you by Mike McLaughlin. You can definitely find Mike McLaughlin on Facebook.com. Just look him up, and you will find some of the best fiction that you've ever read just waiting for you to fall in love with it. Mike McLaughlin, let him know you heard about it from TCV as well. Guys, at news.yahoo.com, Congress abruptly overrules D.C. voter and nixes marijuana legislation. That is why it bothers me greatly. It's why I'm libertarian. It's why I'm the way that I am. Because you could argue, and I'm on this side as well, that even if the majority of the voting people do not want you smoking pot, you should probably smoke pot if you want to, because it's none of their damn business. But there are other libertarians who are saying, no, you do have to follow the rule of law, and you can't do it until the law is changed. Well, here you have an instance where the law was changed by the votes and will of the people of D.C., and it got hosed anyway. What am I saying? Am I saying you should smoke pot if it's illegal? Yeah, read between the lines. When residents of the District of Columbia voted to legalize recreational use of marijuana last month, cannabis fans cheered. Then they quickly realized that Congress, which has oversight over DC's affairs, could overrule the will of the voters. Now it appears that fear will come true sooner than expected, and not in the next Congress when Republicans will control both chambers, but during the lame duck session currently underway. How do you prevent this from happening? You let the Republicans know that you want Obamacare gone and you want the weed restrictions gone. And you hold their feet to the fire. Let's face it. They would sell their souls to the devil. This is less than the devil. They're going to do both of those for you if you insist on it. If not, then the same thing is going to happen that you're getting now. Tuesday night, Senate Democrats and House Republicans reached a deal to fund the federal government through September 30th of next year. That means that no government shutdown is going to be happening, but the deal's fine print also includes a provision that bars implementation of Initiative 71. The marijuana legalization measure DC voters approved a 2-to-1 margin on November 4th. They used to call them Christmas trees. That would be if you have a bill that has to do with, let's say, marijuana laws. That's your bill. You're dealing with that bill. Hidden in that bill is a new bridge for the state of Maine, and then you don't pick it up when you read the bill, so you vote for it, and suddenly the government's paying for Maine's bridge. It used to be called a Christmas tree, and there were a number of people when I was in high school, too young to vote, that were trying to make Christmas trees illegal, and I remember the whole joke at the time. Well, needless to say, it looks as here that was a great idea, and it also, by the way, failed. Why? Because you keep voting for Republicans and Democrats. The only Republicans I would even contemplate voting for right now are Rand Paul and Justin Amish. I would grudgingly vote for Rand. I would happily vote for Amish. Possibly Napolitano, but I don't know if he's Republican or Libertarian. I don't think he's ever said. Specifically, a press summary of the spending bill posted online by the House Appropriation Committee says it prohibits both federal and local funds from being used to implement a referendum legalizing recreational marijuana use in the district. While maybe it's time to change that Appropriations Committee BS because the voters want otherwise. It says advocates of voting rights for the district's 640,000 residents were outraged. In other words, the voters did speak. And as always, Congress didn't listen. Guys, that brings us to the dumdies, more than one of the day. No surprise here. This freaking harlot should have gotten one a long time ago. I'm really unhappy that encyclopedias do not exist anymore, because if they did, and there was no internet, if they did exist, then we would all be getting a lot of our history from encyclopedias. And encyclopedias often had pictures. And if you looked up the word talentless, you would find Kim Kardashian in it. It causes wrinkles. Kim Kardashian shares a picture of herself smiling as she admits she doesn't laugh often due to fear of aging. I always assumed that the reason she wasn't laughing was because she was with Kanye. And he can't sing, he can't rap, and he probably has a small schlong. That is always the reason that I assumed that this trumpet was smiling. No, it's because she's afraid that she's going to wreck her face. Now, I work in the strip club. Don't tell me about Pretty. I've worked there for almost 8 years now. I can tell you about Pretty. You ain't going to tell me about Pretty. I've worked with the prettiest of the pretty. Anytime you get a knockout girl that doesn't smile, all the other girls that aren't perfect 10s undercut her entirely. And then the pretty girl wonders why she didn't make any money. That proverbial pretty girl here is Kim Kardashian. I'm not going to tell you that I think she's ugly, but dear Lord, man, she is not that pretty. Get over it. She's schlonging a moron, for crying out loud. She's hardly snapped with a smile on her face, frequently getting called out for her apathetic expressions. Well, she's got the brain of a freaking pumpkin stem. What do you expect? On Monday, Kim Kardashian, Mark Dice calls her Trash Cashian, jokingly came to her own defense. See, I do smile, even though on occasion. Not too often, though, because it causes wrinkles. The 34-year-old wife of Kanye West quipped on Twitter. Might I say that if anybody deserved a non-smiling wife, it would be Kanye West. Because I haven't smiled since the stupid son of a bitch got a record contract. All right, guys, last part of the Dumdies of the day. Your second Dumdy. We're going to have the Dunce Cap of the Month award in mere days. This is InfoWars, a video of students sign a petition to deport American citizens in order to make room for illegals. That's right. Now, see, my brother, DJ Aram of Passing Time, he has done polling work before. And he's told me firsthand that there are people that will sign anything just to be nice to you. So I'm willing to concede that not everybody that signed this was in favor of it. I mean, it's on Alan Salazar's article here. The woman that is used for this is much prettier than Kim Kardashian. And I can definitely see, I mean, you'd be like, oh, I'm going to sign. What's this for? Well, we'd like you to sign to shoot yourself in the head. Oh, you sure are pretty. Okay. I get it. A lot of people signed this just because the bait was pretty, and they probably shouldn't have used her because it does skew the results. Having said that, how many of you listening to this are going to sign something regardless of how pretty the opposite sex, or if you're of that persuasion, the same sex is, without reading it? An absurd petition recently made its rounds as a prestigious college campus and actually garnered signatures despite it supporting the deportation of American citizens in exchange for illegal immigrants. Campus Reform, a website dedicated to highlighting bias and hypocrisy at colleges across the nation, devised a mock petition which asked students from the George Washington University, located in Washington, D.C., another story on D.C. What's wrong with D.C.? Good Lord. Whether they would support President Obama's plan to ship Americans out of the country in order to make room for incoming undocumented immigrants. Again, I've watched the videos, and I'd like to see what would happen if you used me as the poller instead of this could-be supermodel that they use, because I think half these people probably signed it because the girl was pretty. That's why it's not getting the Dunce Cap of the Month. Most of the guys are looking at her like, they have no idea what they're signing. But it's the other ones that concern me. It said this is a petition for President Obama to deport one American citizen in exchange for 100 undocumented immigrants. The Campus Reform reporter informed students before asking if they would pledge their support to the notion. Everyone must be allowed a shot at the American dream, the petition read. Americans should not be greedy. Let us right the wrongs of our past and make another's dreams come true. Apparently, just those few catchy taglines were all that was needed to encouragement for some students needed. All right, let's go for it, one male student said. Yeah, well, see, he's forgiven. No, it makes sense, a female student said. Unless she's of that persuasion that I was talking about, that's not an excuse for her. So let's face it, we have people in this country that are stupid enough to want to deport American citizens who were born here to make room for people that were not. Does that surprise you? It doesn't surprise me. Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views. Sam I.B. DeGangi signing off, wishing you a happy new year. Do me a favor, look at the Christmas Eve show, look at the Christmas show. There's tons of news on there that you're going to want to see. And thank you so much for tuning in. Share the video. You can donate to me at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Every penny that you give to me goes towards a better show. Also, check out Passing Time, the band. We've been posting a bunch of new stuff lately. There's some new music up, and we want your input. Good night, friends, and God bless. Thanks for listening. We'll have the HD up next time. Again, it's being used for other things.